I gde onda sve ovo ostavlja City? To smo pitali neke od najuticajnijih mislilaca i insajdera. Alex Hickman je bivši savjetnik Davida Camerona za spoljnu politiku i trenutno jedan od najuspešnijih konsultanata u Londonu. George Eustice, bivši presekretar Davida Camerona, i dalje je jedan od njegovih najbližih saradnika. Trenutno je poslanik konzervativne partije u britanskom parlamentu. Ross Walker, glavni ekonomista Royal Bank of Scotland i jedan od najboljih poznavalaca priliku u Cityju, gde radi od završetka univerziteta. Cenjeni politički komentator sa ostrva, Adam Bolton. Član ekskluzivnog londonskog kluba najbogatijih, investitor i vlasnik rudarske imperije, Danko Končar.
You visit the UK at a time when we are just in a period of uncertainty and we are looking for leadership to take us out of it.
Is it possible that this whole fallout between London and Brussels can be explained by City?
City is a very influential voice, particularly with a Conservative Prime Minister, because a lot of his financial backing for his party comes from individuals who have been successful in the city. So undoubtedly he listens very carefully to the city. On top of that, successive governments, Labour and Conservative, have identified the city and empowering our financial service industry as crucial to the UK economy.
Ever since January, when David Cameron actually said, I'm going to go through with this referendum thing, most of us in media initially started using the word gamble.
I think it's a gamble. It was a very good gamble. Cameron is a good tactician.
Well, it's a double gamble in a sense, because in order to deliver the referendum, he has to win the election. So his calculation has to be that offering a referendum will improve his chances of winning the election. And if he does win the election, he's tied to holding the referendum. And of course, when you ask the people, you don't know what the answer is going to be. He has made it clear that he believes he can get renegotiated terms and get a yes vote, but it always opens the possibility of a no vote. So that's the second gamble.
There is no long-term future for the European Union unless it learns to change and unless it confronts its failings. So somebody has to take a stand and say, the current system's not working, we need to reform the European Union, here's how we do it. And I think he's right to set that out. Now, what he now has to do is work on getting support for his vision, and that's where, if you like, the gamble is.
I've argued for some time that a working Eurozone needs a working banking union. It is one of the features that a successful single currency needs. Obviously, you don't need a banking union because you have a single market. You need it because you have a single currency. So Britain should not and will not be part of that banking union. Britain's banks will be supervised by the Bank of England, not the ECB, and British taxpayers will not be guaranteeing or rescuing Eurozone banks.
He likes taking charge like this, but he tends to take charge in moments of crisis, and he looks good in moments of crisis. What he's done is he seized control of the issue, he's put himself in control of the process and the debate about Europe until the next election in 2015. He's made his backbenchers happy. Those that were worried about his leadership have been forced to be quiet, and he has made it less likely that UKIP will take votes away from him during the next election. However, strategically, it's a very big gamble. I think that Cameron's difficulty over the European Union referendum is a symptom of this wider sense of the British political class haven't really led from the front and worked out where we need to be strategically. And so I think I would critique it as a reactive move rather than a proactive one.
How's the alignment between David Cameron and George Osborne going? Is it still going strong?
They took over the leadership of the Conservative Party together, and they effectively run the Conservative Party together. So that relationship is fundamental. And it's highly likely that Cameron will do what he can to hand the leadership on to George Osborne if it's politically possible. However, Cameron's biggest threat politically is probably Boris Johnson.
I think he should be very afraid of Boris Johnson. He's an ambitious politician who's proven that he can win elections and has a lot of charisma. The problems, of course, are that right now there's no vacancy at the top of the Conservative Party, and Boris Johnson, until and unless he gets back into the Westminster Parliament, isn't a viable future leader or Prime Minister.
People say that Boris Johnson harbours leadership ambitions. I'm not sure. Boris has got plenty on his plate at the moment, trying to run London.
Boris, of course, has a very interesting role here within the debate about the city. Because what you see with the London mayor is a desire to protect the city beyond anything else and try and take the city out of the UK almost and present it as a global city-state.
I think it's fair to say that bankers are probably not the most popular members of British society. I think there probably is a wider recognition that many of the economic problems that the UK and other Western economies face are not just down to banking sector mistakes.
But they're so easy to blame.
Well, I think it's an inevitable aspect of human nature that sometimes certain groups attract a disproportionate amount of criticism.
We do need to tackle this, but I think it's a cultural thing that we need to tackle, and I'm not sure that arbitrary regulation is the correct way to go about it.
So moral outrage about the behaviour of bankers can actually be quite a helpful excuse for actually trying to damage the freewheeling ways of the city.
The behaviour of the bankers was wrong, period. However, to cap bonuses and therefore undermine the strength of Europe's regional financial centre and our only global financial centre is not sensible.
The question is, should these things be decided by the European Commission or should they be decided by our own national government?
City bi mogao da nastrada, ali ja sam uvjeren da neće, jer će City sam pronaći način da ne nastrada, ne zato što će mu politika pomoći.
Jel vam se čini da sada u ovom animozitetu koji je stvoren između Brisela i Londona gotovo postoji očekivanje da želimo da plate, mislim na financijski sektor, da želimo njihovu krv, ako želite, od strane javnosti?
Sada kad sve ide loše, onda svi dižu i traže lopova, odnosno traže nekog ko treba da plati ceh. Imate situaciju da su ljudi dobili bonus, a da su istovremeno doveli banku do bankrota. Mislim, jedno s drugim ne ide.
The bonuses are there to incentivize employees to generate that wealth and that profit in the first place. They're not just paid out regardless.
If I was running one of the big global banks, I would be extremely concerned with how I keep my best people in the light of the bonus cap. There will be big issues around how do we retain competitiveness. But I do think that London has established advantages which will be hard to undermine.
I think over time you will see more business, relatively more business being done in Asia, probably the United States as well. So I think Europe as a whole, in terms of its share of financial sector activity, will see a decline in the years to come. Over the next few years, I think it's probably a marginal change rather than a more radical restructuring.
I think the city long-term has a very strong future. I don't see it being undermined as a global financial centre, potentially the global financial centre, unless its ability to be open and to transact in a quick and efficient and cheap way is threatened.